We could have another Russian face coming to Pittsburgh, and it's a very intriguing one. Hunter and I are going to talk about that and more on this edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast.
Your Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Damp. You can follow me across all social media platforms at synonym for wet. Joined as always by the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow him on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can give our show's Twitter account a follow at LO_Penguins. And of course, we appreciate you making us part of your daily routine because we're your team every day. Don't forget that we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube and the Roku channel. Also, if you follow us on YouTube, be sure to hit that notification button. That way you can be among the first to know when we drop our daily Monday through Friday episodes. Before we get going, allow me to apologize in advance. I have been battling allergies, a cold, I don't know what it is, for the last few days. It makes me sound like I just got done hacking an entire pack of cigarettes, but I promise you that is not the case. So my apologies in advance. But Hunter, really interesting report over the weekend. Also, hope everyone had a great Memorial Day holiday. We took the day off to enjoy it. We got a rare nice day of weather in Pittsburgh, so why not take advantage of that? But over the weekend, the rumors and reports had begun to come out that the Penguins are in the running, reportedly, for a very intriguing free agent out of the KHL. That is Maxim Shabonov. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And Hunter, we know that Russian free agents can go one of two ways. They can either come over and light the league up, or they can be out of the league in a year or two. So give us a little bit of a rundown of what this guy has done so far in the KHL.
Well, he's been on fire this year. And Pat, we might have to do the hashtag Russian winger for Gino. Might have to bring that one back for Twitter, Blue Sky, all the social media channels. I'm sure maybe Penguins Reddit will be doing something like that as well. But he has been in the KHL for quite a while now. This past season was his best season yet in the KHL. 23 goals, 67 points in 65 games. In the playoffs, Pat, 10 goals, 20 points in 21 games. Last season, played for the same team, 25 goals, 50 points in 64 games, had 3 goals, 11 points in 14 playoff games. So he's been right around a point per game in the playoffs these last couple of years. But this year in the regular season, he was a little bit over a point per game. And he is a lot of fun to watch in the offensive zone. You put the tape on, and he is great with the puck on his stick, makes a lot of really fun moves, cuts to the net quite often. The best part, Pat, he's only 5'8", and 157 pounds. So he's a little bit of a short king, not as much of a short king as Pat is, people. He's only a little over 5 feet right now on the pod. But when in terms of NHL players, he is a short king. 5'8", you don't see many of those in the NHL. But he doesn't play like he's 5'8". When you turn on the tape, he takes it to some of these bigger players around the net. And he loves taking the puck in to those high danger areas and roofing it past goalies. It's a lot of fun to watch. So this is someone who can hopefully play in the top 9. I think he's better than the KHL right now. He's too good for the KHL. That's what I'm trying to say. I think he's more than ready to give it a shot in the NHL. And I do think the Penguins have some key components to offer here. No, they're not a Stanley Cup contender. He's going to get that with the Vegas Golden Knights. And by the way, it does make me happy that the Golden Knights are in on him, not just because they are a contender and they have a good shot to get him. Those are very true. But the Golden Knights scouting staff is among the best in the NHL. They are so good at finding talent all over the world. So the fact that the Golden Knights are in on him makes me really happy. And you did say it, Pat. This goes one of two ways. You either light the league on fire, or you're in the league for a year, then you go back to Russia. Maybe with this player, we get it in the middle where you light the league on fire a little bit, but you're also not like a Artemi Panarin, that situation or something like that. But even though Vegas has quite a bit to offer, so do the Penguins. They can give him potentially a role right away. You can put him on that second line with Gino if he has a good camp in preseason. You can put him on the third line with Tommy Novak or whoever the third line center is. You will guarantee this player playing time. And lastly, it's kind of like throwing a dart at a dartboard. If it hits, great. You have a player that can be here for the short term at least, and maybe the long term. If not, okay, you move on. But I do like that the Penguins are in on this player. Do not let the size fool you, people. He has a lot of skill with the puck. A lot of fun to watch.
You are either Sergei Plotnikov or you are Artemi Panarin. No, obviously, it's not that black and white. There is a lot of gray in the middle. But you brought up the fact that he is undersized, all things considered, 5'8", 157. That's not all that encouraging when you look at it. If you were to just pull up his statistics, pull up his hockey DB page, and you would balk at that, because 5'8", 157 in the NHL kind of tells you that this guy's going to get tossed around. He's going to get bullied. But you watch his tape, there is zero fear in his game. He goes to the net. He is willing to go to high danger areas. Obviously, it's a bit of a different game. You're playing on bigger ice, so you have more room to maneuver with in the KHL than you would in the NHL. So it's a little bit easier to play with that lack of fear, simply because, like I said, you've got that open ice. You can build up a head of steam. You see what's coming a little bit. It takes you a little bit longer to see what's coming. NHL, you make that quick cut to the net, that could be a problem. But you figure he comes over to the NHL, and the Penguins aren't going to just let him run out in the yard and do whatever he wants. They're going to have him bulk up. They're going to have him really try to get stronger and work within his frame, because the skill is there. You watch the highlights of him. He is a magician with the puck. He gets the puck, and it is a real challenge to take the puck off of him, which in a league like the KHL doesn't happen all that often. It's more open space. Guys are more willing to make passes. Guys are more willing to step up defensively because you've got more room. But the fact that he is this good with the puck on his stick, really encouraging sign. The other thing, I want to expand on this a little bit, is you're not going to roll out the red carpet for him, but he is in a position where he has most of the leverage. Played really well in the KHL. Whatever team he wants to play for over there will obviously hand him a bag of cash to come back. So if he wants to make the step in the jump to the NHL, there's going to have to be some concessions. There's going to have to be some things that work in his favor. Vegas, you're going right to a team that's all in, no pun intended. They are a team that is always going for it. If you are not helping them win a championship, they will jettison you out faster than you can imagine. That said, that's a risk, because if he comes in and it doesn't work by midseason, he could get buried. He could get sent to Henderson. He could get sent to the AHL, and he might not like that. Here in Pittsburgh, very real chance he's on the second or third line if he has a good camp almost right away, and you'll give him an extended look, which does work in the Penguins' favor because he's 24, he's played really well, and he's probably looking for that shot.
And it goes in Kyle Dubas' line of thinking. They want to get younger. They want to get players who they think are ready for the NHL. He is right in line with that. So again, Penguins, even though they're not contending, they still have quite a bit to offer. New system. We'll have to see who the new coach is. That could get finalized potentially later this week, since I think we're doing the second round of interviews. More on that a bit later on in the show. You have that. You have playing time, and you have the chance to play with future Hall of Famers. I do think all three of those things are pretty enticing for a young player, even though, Pat, this team isn't contending for a cup this year. You're going to get that in Vegas. You'll probably get the playing time. But here in Pittsburgh, there's also a lot that the Penguins can and will offer this young kid.
The leash would be a lot shorter in Vegas if he were to go there, because if he's not working towards the Stanley Cup, they are going to absolutely pull him down the lineup and even maybe send him to the AHL, depending on the contract. But here in Pittsburgh, he'll have, in theory, more room to run. But that is going to do it for this opening segment. Like Hunter said, the next round of interviews are expected to get going this week, and it looks like, according to a lot of reporting, there is one candidate who is very much in the lead. Hunter and I are going to talk about that when we come back right after this. But first, we've got to tell you about today's sponsor, and that is Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, these nuts are packed with fiber and those better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, huge fan of the no shells variety. Whether I'm off getting work done on my car, at work, here at home, on the go, the no shells variety gives me that quick protein boost I need. But if you're looking for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell option is always available for you. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, we're back here on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp, right alongside Hunter Hodes, gutting this out like Michael Jordan because it is my flu game, apparently. But let's get back into it with the coaching search for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're expected to hear about the second round of interviews this week, especially since Kyle Dubas probably came back from the Worlds a little bit earlier than he expected after Team Canada was upset in the World Championship. So his focus turns from managing Team Canada to finding a head coach for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And while it has been a little quiet on this front the last few days, it does seem like Mitch Love is the guy leading the clubhouse. We've heard a bunch of reports of who's in the mix, who they've spoken to, who they might want to speak to. Obviously, this could all change, but Hunter, right now, it does seem like Mitch Love is the guy that they are most coveting for this job.
I think this is his job to lose right now. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I'm just making an educated guess based on a little bit from what I've heard and how much they like him and how much his name continues to be connected to this job. Again, I don't know that it's his job to lose. I think that based on everything that's been going on. You had Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts on Monday say that he will be in Pittsburgh this week for a second interview. That was really the only name that he dropped on the pod for that. It very much seems like to me that he is the favorite for the gig right now. And I think if everything goes well with the second round of interviews, I think he will get this job if he wants it. That's just me. Like, I could be dead wrong on that. It could go to DJ Smith, Drew Bannister, David Quinn, but I think he's actually more of a finalist for the Seattle job, by the way, than the Penguins one. But right now, I very much do think this is his job to lose. Mitch Love's name has been floated around a little bit with Seattle, but it feels like to me, at least, that job is going to come down to A, David Quinn, or B, Lane Lambert, the Maple Leafs assistant, who also was the head coach of the New York Islanders before he got fired. If that is the case, God help Seattle fans, because I don't really know what the Kraken are doing, by the way. Their front office is very interesting. Mitch Love doesn't seem to be a candidate in Boston right now. I think Marco Sturm is big there. Jay Woodcroft is big there. Jay Leach is big there too. I think it might be one of those three names that gets named the head coach of the Boston Bruins. It's funny. All three of these searches are kind of right in the same situation right now, where they're cutting down the list. They're doing second round interviews, and they're trying to make a decision as soon as possible. I think once one team makes one decision, you'll see the domino effect, and the other two teams will make their decisions. We could have the Islanders enter the fray after Matthew Darche was named GM. If they want to fire Patrick Waugh and he wants to hire a new coach, we'll have to see. But right now, I think you could see a domino effect when one of these teams makes a decision. But still very much feels like to me that if the Penguins want Mitch Love and they make him an offer, I think he will take it, and I think he will be the next head coach. But a lot of this stuff is fluid, man. Like, anything can happen. But I do feel like potentially by the end of this week, we might know who the next head coach is. June 1st is a Sunday. Could be a Monday decision on June 2nd at the latest, or sometime maybe later on next week. But I think the time frame is late this week into sometime next week when we will find out, who the next coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins is.
It does feel like, to kind of build off of what you were saying, that this summer coaching search in the NHL is almost the Mitch Love sweepstakes, because his name has popped up with just about every opening. Every team pretty much that was looking for a coach this offseason has brought up the name Mitch Love. Now, some of that is a lot of these teams that are searching for coaches are in, I wouldn't say totally similar scenarios, but there's a lot of similarities in the sense that it's either teams that are rebuilding and looking to take another step, or teams that underachieved and are looking to go in a different direction. And Mitch Love kind of feels like he checks a lot of boxes for all of these teams. The one team I will say that it doesn't feel like it would make a ton of sense for him is Seattle, because it really feels like that is going to be a Lane Lambert kind of team. Since they've entered the league, they have kind of almost hilariously, considering where Lane Lambert has been, kind of similar to the Islanders, where they want to do everything by committee. They want to be a very defense-first team. They want to make you play 2-1, 1-0, 3-2 games night in and night out. And that is Lambert to a T. Love, on the other hand, you look at the teams he's coached, especially as a head coach in juniors and in the AHL, they may not be defense-first, stingy kind of teams, but they are complete teams with a focus on developing their younger talent. And that, to me, fits exactly what the Penguins are looking for. So I'm right with you. I do believe that when he comes to Pittsburgh later this week, so long as he doesn't, throw up all over himself in an in-person interview, it's probably his job to lose.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we did our big breakdown of Mitch Love a little over a week ago on the pod. We don't need to fully rehash that here, but he just checks, I think, the most boxes for what you want as the next head coach of this organization. Not going to really piss off any of the core players. I still think that is a bit important. Not as important as the development of some of the younger pieces, but it is still at least a little bit of a factor. I still think he will command the respect from those players, even though, Pat, he's 40 years old, and Sid and Gino, they're right around the same age. It is kind of funny. And we'll throw Letang in there, of course, too. And, of course, the development of some of these younger pieces. You want a coach to come in here and really do a good job with Rucker McGroarty, with Billy Koivunen, maybe Harrison Brunick, Owen Pickering, of course, Yoel Blomqvist, etc. He checks both those boxes to a T. And when he was a player, he played fairly physical. I think he will bring that element to his coaching style as well. And I think the Penguins need that a little bit, especially when, I'm not going to sit here and say they're like insanely soft compared to other teams, but I feel like they could use at least a little bit more bite in their game. That's all I'm saying. So I think he would also instill that into the Penguins. Again, checks the most boxes out of all of these other coaches. He's also been very successful in his stops. He's done a great job with Washington's defensemen. Another box you check there. Penguins, their defensemen, they need to be a lot better next year. So that's another big one. And he was great in the AHL with Calgary. So again, out of all the coaches that have been linked to the Penguins in this search, I think by far he checks the most boxes.
You said something that I have been calling for quite a while, and I don't want to get it twisted. I don't want people to think that I want the Penguins to become the Florida Panthers. Well, success aside, I want them to become the Florida Panthers because they're pretty damn good right now. But I think it's become, and this is a mini rant I'm going to go on here. I think that the nuance of the debate has kind of been lost over the last few years in hockey. I don't think that the Penguins obviously need to become a goon squad. I don't think teams who are goon squads play well or are successful. And I know a lot of people are going to point at Florida, but Florida also has a ton of talent.
They have elite talent that just plays with bite. Like that's what Florida does, man.
I know this will sound silly because the hallmark of the 2016 and 2017 Penguins was that, oh, they just overwhelmed you with speed. They overwhelmed you with skill. While not untrue, I keep coming back to this. When you played those Stanley Cup winning Penguins teams in 16 and 17, it was a long night because not only were they fast, not only were they skilled, they played a very, very sneakily physical game. They would, if they had nothing, because everyone will say, oh, they loved possession. They loved this, that, and the other. They loved possession when they had the opportunity. If they could cross the blue line with possession, they had no problem doing that. Of course they wanted to do that. But if they didn't, they put it in deep, and defensemen were like, especially in the playoffs, by games 5, 6, and 7, they were like, another Penguins winger is going to just run into me. And it might not have been big hits. It might not have been bone-crunching hits, but you get hit 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times a night for a 5, 6, 7-game series. It's exactly what Paul Maurice wants them to do in Florida. By game 6 and 7, you are exhausted. You are tired of playing that kind of hockey. And I don't think Mitch Love is going to turn him into that overnight. No. But putting in a style and getting players to buy into that style will help this team and the younger guys for a long time. So I would really, really like to see that. But speaking of the Florida Panthers, conference finals, they're still going. And Hunter and I, we got to talk about them. And we will do that when we come back right after this. All right, we're back here. It is the Tuesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp, right alongside Hunter Hodes, and we almost got history on Monday night, Hunter. We almost got it, but we didn't. The Carolina Hurricanes avoided setting an unreal record of going 0-16 in the conference finals.
I had a meme ready to go for social media. I had it. I made it. And now I can't use it.
And here's the funny thing. Let's start with Carolina, Florida, because I know that he got memed into existence and you were ready to do it yourself the last time these two teams met in the conference final. But Rod Brind'Amour was technically correct. They lost 4 extremely tight games, 3 of which went to overtime. And yes, on the surface, they got swept 4-0. But if the coin lands on the other side in any of those games, they don't. They played very well. But this year, this series, until game 4, which was Monday night, Carolina was not playing well whatsoever. That was a true sweep in waiting, and they obviously have avoided it. But this has kind of been, and I want to take the focus off Carolina for just a second. This has been a surprising playoff for me for the Florida Panthers, and maybe I'm just naive, but I expected them to be right back in the mix. I didn't think that I thought that they might lose in the first round because of how good Tampa was playing. I haven't expected them to look this good for this long into this playoff.
You know what's funny? Before the season, I predicted that we would get a Stanley Cup final rematch, Edmonton versus Florida. First round comes along. I picked the Bolts to beat the Panthers because I didn't like the way the Panthers are playing down the stretch. And then in the second round, I picked the Knights to beat the Oilers. So I think I'm just getting dumber now. I picked the final before the rematch before the season. I then pick against those two teams at least once during the playoffs. I think I'm just getting stupider here, people. So I apologize about that. But the Panthers, the only thing that's not surprised. Well, how do I want to say this? The only thing that's maybe a little bit surprising is that they're not even close to being out of gas. They don't look tired at all. And they've played a lot of hockey, man. 2 years ago, they get to the final. They lose to Vegas. Last year, they get to the final. 7 grueling games against the Oilers. They almost choked that, but they don't. And then this year, they dispatch the Lightning very quickly. The Leafs give them one heck of a fight in the second round. Well, until games 5 and game 7. Sorry, Toronto. And then this series, it's just been a complete butt whooping for most of it so far. The Hurricanes looked out of their depth in the first 3 games, which isn't surprising. I still think they need more elite talent. I said that on Twitter. When they go up against a team that has better high-end talent, this is what happens. Now, credit to them. They found a way to win game 4, the Hurricanes, that is, and they're getting this series back to Raleigh, which is huge because Raleigh is usually one of the top home ice advantages in the NHL in the playoffs, so it hasn't been that way this round. But they didn't go down with a whimper in game 4. You at least brought it back to your home barn, and you have a chance to make this a little bit interesting if you can extend this series a little bit more by sending it back to Sunrise for game 6. Now, I still think the Panthers are going to win this series. They have been the best team in the conference when they are on their game this season, even though they've struggled at times. But, the Panthers, they are a machine. And I think if they are able to win the Stanley Cup this year, they will have a legit argument for the best 3-year stretch of any team in the salary cap era from 23 to 25. This is a juggernaut, top to bottom. I said it in the last segment. They are full of elite players that play like rats, and they play with a lot of bite. It's a copycat league, and you're going to try to see teams mimic this style. Good luck, because a lot of these teams don't have the front office that the Panthers do. Bill Zito is one of the 5 best general managers in the league. He has done a great job building this team. Now, as for the Western Conference, Pat, I hate to say I told some people so. The Oilers are on fire right now. They have been by far the better team in this series. I picked them to win it in 7. It's looking good right now, though I do feel a little bit bad for the Stars and their fans because they played by far their best game of the series in game 3. Didn't matter. They got smoked. McDavid and Leon woke up again. Bouchard was great once again, and he continues to have a really good playoff. Say what you will about Bouchard during the regular season and that his defensive liabilities are there, and they are. Let's be real here. He didn't make Team Canada probably for that reason, and because his skill set there was probably a bit redundant when you think of Cale Makar and a couple other players. But he is showing once again in these playoffs that when he is on, there are not many better defensemen in this league than him. And the Oilers are also getting their depth contributions. And Stuart Skinner, feast or famine. It's kind of like regular season version of Tristan Jarry, where when he's on, oh, great. When he's off, well, not so great. All gas, no brakes. And so far in this series, he's been playing very well for the Oilers. But I still think right now we are on track for a collision course of a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup final. And Pat, can you name the last time we saw back-to-back Stanley Cup final rematches?
That would be 2008 and 2009.
Yes,
the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Detroit Red Wings. Detroit gets round 1 in 08. The Penguins get round 2 in 09.
It would be very fitting for this to be the final once again, because the Oilers came so close last year, and to be the best, you got to beat the best. And that's why I really want to see this rematch. Don't get me wrong. It would be cool to see Stars versus Panthers as well, but I'm kind of pulling for a rematch here. It very well might be Connor and Leon's time.
I will say this, though, about the Western Conference final, is this does just feel like 2 absolute heavyweights just trading haymakers left and right. Because, yeah, I agree. Like, Connor and Leon are doing Connor and Leon things, but I've liked Dallas's game for most of this series. And eventually I do think Rantanen is going to wake up, because that's kind of been an underrated storyline in the Western Conference final.
Game 3, they were good. The first 2 games outside of the third period in game 1, I don't really think Dallas played that well. But game 3, they very much did. They deserved a better fate.
Yeah, and I do think if Rantanen starts to show up again, we're right back in this series. This one, I know this kind of sounds like I'm taking the coward's way out, but like this could suddenly turn into quick work for Edmonton, or it could go the distance, because there's a lot of X factors on the Stars that, should they decide to show up, it's not that Edmonton can't handle it. They've shown they can handle it, but it's 2 really, really good teams going at one another. And it's been such a difference between the conferences. I know that Florida's great. It just feels like Carolina, like you said, is completely overmatched. And I'm way more excited to see what happens tonight with Dallas Edmonton than I am to see what happens with Florida Carolina. But I will say this, Paul Maurice, this is where I'll end my portion of the show. Paul Maurice with my favorite quote, maybe of all time. Sometimes you say a prayer, sometimes you shotgun a beer. Boy, oh boy, if that doesn't sum up high school Patrick, if I've ever heard it in my life.
Can we get that on a shirt, please? Someone for the Florida Panthers needs to make that a shirt, or just someone that makes shirts needs to make that.
It
because
either
I would buy it.
sounds like a shirt you would get in the Strip District or a song off of a Fall Out Boy album. But I digress.
If only Pittsburgh Clothing Company would make a shirt about that. If it were something Penguins related. Because, hey, I got on my Brandon Tanev shirt right now. Absolutely legendary shirt from Pittsburgh Clothing Company. If you have not bought any of their shirts, you're doing it wrong. They are awesome. Just wish that they could make a shirt for this. But again, it's not Penguins related, so they're not going to.
But yeah, we are going to keep an eye on the Stanley Cup playoffs, as we always do. We're going to keep an eye on what might happen with these Russian free agents and the head coaching search. We'll have all of that throughout the week for you here on Locked On Penguins, as well as on Friday. We will once again bring back Fan Take Friday because you guys did a hell of a job with your takes last week, and we want to run that back once again. But for the Tuesday edition, for Hunter Hodes, I'm Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in. We will be back on Wednesday.